Hi, I'm Rev Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for 40 years. I was reading something in the course yesterday that really caught my attention, and I just wanted to share my thoughts about it this morning. I usually write what I'm thinking just to get it perfectly clear on paper so that I can share it in that way. But that's not what I'm doing this morning. I'm just sharing kind of off the cuff. So be patient with me if I get distracted or go off on a tangent. I sometimes do that. What I was reading was in chapter 6, section 2, the alternative to projection. And I was reading in paragraph 11. And this is a paragraph. It starts with, the ego can accept the idea that return is necessary because it can so easily make the idea seem difficult. And isn't that the truth? I mean, doesn't it feel difficult we've got this big book, that we work with. That's a big book. There's a lot in there. Lessons to do daily, text to read, manual for teachers, all these different, the 2 supplements. And yet, is it really difficult? Later in this paragraph, I read a sentence which I don't remember reading before. I guess it just didn't have meaning at the time. And it says this. It's talking about how it says it's talking about, let me just go ahead and read that little part to you. It says, however, you can make the idea of return both necessary and difficult. Yet it is surely clear that the perfect need nothing, and you cannot experience perfection as a difficult accomplishment because that's what you are. That's good news, isn't it? That's what we are. We are perfect, and we can't change that. In fact, I was talking about that this morning, looking at the first section of chapter 2, and I recorded that in case you're interested. Okay, so it says, this is a way in which you must perceive God's creations, bringing all your perceptions into the one line the Holy Spirit sees. So right there is telling us that this is part of returning to God, is we have to see all of his creations as perfect. We have to see all of his creations as the Holy Spirit sees them. So that's something it's important I want to remember. When those times, whenever I'm thinking about somebody who upset me or something from my past, difficulty I had with someone, it's absolutely necessary that I allow the Holy Spirit to show me that person in a different light, to show me how he sees that one. Okay, then it says, this is a sentence which surprised me. This line, okay, so we're talking about getting our perception of God's creations in line with the Holy Spirit, the way the Holy Spirit sees. It says, this line is a direct line to communication with God, and let your mind converge with his. Now I'm going to read that again. Let's think about this. This line is a direct line of communication with God, and let your mind converge with his. So what is it telling me? It's telling me that as I perceive his creations, using the right mind, using what I call my holy mind, where the Holy Spirit resides, my true mind, using the Holy Spirit to see everyone, myself and everyone else. This is how I bring my thoughts into alignment with God's thoughts. So I was thinking of it like this. Here are the thoughts that I think with God, and here are the thoughts I think with the ego. Do you see how they can't come together? But if I allow those thoughts to be corrected by the Holy Spirit, and I begin to see as the Holy Spirit sees, oh, do you see what's happening? My thoughts, my mind is converging with God. My mind is converging with God's mind. That's a return to God. That's how we return to God. Now, and when we think of it that way, no, it's not hard. All that we have to do is allow the Holy Spirit. All we have to do is to allow the Holy Spirit to correct our thinking. Our thoughts must be in alignment with God's thoughts. So if we're thinking from the perspective of our split mind, then our thoughts are not going to converge. We are not going to converge. Our mind is not going to converge with God's mind. And that's where we want to be, because that's where we are, is in the mind of God. That cannot change, but our experience of it has changed. Our experience of it has changed because we decided to have a different experience. We decided to have this experience of having thoughts that are not our real thoughts. So what do I do with this? Well, it's what I've been doing for years, and I have to tell you, this works. I'm very vigilant for my thoughts. I recognize when my thoughts are coming from my ego mind, from the split mind. I know when those thoughts are coming from the split mind because I'm not happy. I'm not at peace. And so I see when that happens. I look at it with the Holy Spirit. I become willing to have my mind changed. And the Holy Spirit changes it for me. The Holy Spirit corrects my thinking. He heals my mind. Sometimes I'll say, Holy Spirit, show me another way to see this because I feel confused. I can't think of another way to see it. I'm sure we've all had that experience where we're aware of perhaps someone in our life that we don't see eye to eye with, that we don't like, someone that causes us trouble. And we think, okay, I want to see this differently, but I don't know how, because it just seems so apparent that this is a problem. And so then I can ask him, show me how to see it differently. Or I might say, oh, all things are lessons God would have me learn. What is the lesson here? What do you want me to know about this? Sometimes if it's difficult, I haven't had a really difficult one lately, but if I did have a difficult, and when I say difficult, I can't seem to bring myself to that point of release, of letting go, which is what forgiveness is, letting go. And so then I will sit down and write, and I'll talk to Jesus or talk to the Holy Spirit, same thing really, but I will talk it out with them, talk it out, and I'll do it by writing. And the reason I write is because whenever I'm just thinking about it, sometimes the ego will take advantage of that and will distract me from what I'm doing. And suddenly I'll find myself thinking about what I want to cook for lunch. So if it's necessary, I write it out. I write out everything I'm thinking, and I don't try to be spiritual about it. I don't try to write it in the best possible way. And I don't try to add the concepts from the course. I just write out what I'm feeling. I let myself feel it. And I write out about it. I write about what I'm feeling, what my thoughts are, everything about it that I can think of. And then I ask for clarity. And then I start writing. And eventually it may not happen immediately, but at some point that writing turns into something that's not coming from me, but coming through me. And that's the Holy Spirit. That's the Holy Spirit in my mind answering my question, helping me because I asked for help. You can get some remarkable results from that. If you need help getting started, learning how to do that, and you think that that might be something that's helpful to you, Pathways of Light has a free course that you can take on your own. It's a little short course, but it's a wonderful way to form that habit and to learn how to do it. Learn how to hear the Holy Spirit in your mind. You can find it at pathwaysoflight.org. And it's mentioned right on the first page whenever you open up the website. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about how I do this sometimes. Something happened. I needed to see a new doctor, someone I'd never seen before. And it's about, I use a CPAP machine at night because I have sleep apnea and I'd lost my sleep doctor, so I had to find a new one. So I'm driving there early in the morning and I start thinking about, oh my gosh, did I remember everything? Because when you go to a new doctor, you have this whole list of things that you have to do. And so I'm like glancing around my car, did I remember everything? Well, here is what happened. When I started out, I was in my holy mind. I had spent the first hour or two in the morning with God, meditating, writing, posting. It always elevates me. Anytime you share, it elevates you. So I was feeling very happy. I was happy that I was going to get this taken care of. I could mark that off my list. And that meant I was in my holy mind. I was in my happy place there with the Holy Spirit. But then I started to worry. Well, there is no worry in the Holy Spirit. There is no worry in that true part of my mind. And therefore, I must have shifted my awareness to the split mind. That's the only place that I can find worry. Why do we do that? It's just a habit, I think, to do so. But while I'm there in my split mind, the ego has a lot to say. It's all of a sudden, my thoughts are going to, what if I don't like this doctor? What if he wants to do everything different? What if he wants to change things that I don't want to change? And all this happened very quickly, much more quickly than I'm describing it. But I felt the tension in my body. I noticed I was not at peace. And so I stopped. I stopped what I was doing. I recognized that I was thinking with the ego mind. I recognized that it's not what I want. That acknowledgement, it is not what I want. Those are not the thoughts I want. I don't want to feel defensive. I do not want to attack. And whenever I'm thinking, maybe this doctor is not very good, well, that's an attack. And I'm attacking myself if I attack someone else. So now there is no chance that my thoughts are in alignment with God's thoughts, and I don't want that either. And so that desire to be healed, that was an invitation to the Holy Spirit. And so I forgave it. I let it go to the Holy Spirit. He took care of it. And so now my mind is clear. But I decided to go a step further. I recognized all those thoughts about, what if I don't like the doctor? What if he does this? What if he does that? That was a story I was making up. I don't know that man. I never met him before in my life. I just made up a story. I made up a story, a scary story, a scary story in which I get stuck with a doctor I don't like, and things change and I don't want it to change. And I decided, instead of telling myself a scary story, why don't I tell myself a happy story? If I'm going to make something up, let it be a happy story that I'm making up. And so I did that. I started telling myself how much I was going to love this doctor, how he was going to be perfect for what I needed, that I was going to, I started feeling gratitude that I was going to have the doctor that I needed to give me the prescription I needed to get my CPAP materials, and that it was going to be a very pleasant experience. I was very excited about that. This is going to be a very pleasant experience, and I'm going to receive something that something helpful from this experience. And so that was the story I started telling myself on the way there, and I was kind of laughing because it was so absurd. Tell yourself a scary story. Why not? Because I don't want to be miserable, because I don't want to lose my peace. That's why not. So tell myself a good story. And so when I got there, it all worked out beautifully. I liked the doctor very much. I liked the people who worked there. I did discover some things that I didn't know before, and it's changed things with the use of my CPAP, and I'm very happy with the results. And I wonder if I had continued thinking in the lines of, there's something wrong with this doctor and I'm not going to like him. When I went to see him, when I got there with that kind of an attitude, that kind of a vibration that I'm putting out, this attack and defend vibration, maybe it would not have been the same visit. Maybe, people don't feel especially happy to share the good things you do, to give you good advice, to give you more than you asked for when you are being defensive. But the main thing for me is, I noticed my thoughts. I recognized I didn't want them. I did what it takes to release them. This puts my mind more in alignment with the thoughts. My thoughts are now more in alignment with the thoughts that God thinks, which brings me much closer to converging with God. That story also illustrates how to do this, to bring our thoughts in alignment with God's thoughts. We cannot judge our brothers. That's equally important. We cannot judge ourselves. We cannot judge our brothers. They are part of us. They are part of God. When I judge someone else, it's like I'm judging God. He created them. It's like I'm judging God. In my mind, that's what the connection that gets made there, and the reason why I lose my peace, and the reason why my thoughts are no longer elevated. So just to sum this up, I'm going to read that paragraph. It says, the ego can accept the idea that return is necessary because it can so easily make the idea seem difficult. Yet the Holy Spirit tells you that even return is unnecessary because what never happened cannot be difficult. And you know, Jesus has been telling us since the beginning of the course, this never happened. This is not our real life. It is an illusion. However, you can make the idea of return both necessary and difficult. Yet it is surely clear that the perfect need nothing, and you cannot experience perfection as a difficult accomplishment because that is what you are. This is a way in which you must perceive God's creations, bringing all of your perceptions into the one line the Holy Spirit sees. This line is a direct line of communication with God, and let your mind converge with His. There is no conflict anywhere in this perception, because it means that all perception is guided by the Holy Spirit, whose mind is fixed on God. This is why we can call on the Holy Spirit with any untrue thought in our mind, and we will receive a healing. We will receive the correction because His mind is always fixed on God. Only the Holy Spirit can resolve conflict because only the Holy Spirit is conflict-free. You see, we are not conflict-free. We have true thoughts and we have thoughts that are not true. So we are always in conflict. This is why Jesus tells us we do not heal ourselves. The Holy Spirit heals us because the Holy Spirit is conflict-free. He perceives only what is true in your mind and extends outward only what is true in other minds. Now that's another story there. He perceives only what is true in your mind and extends outward only to what is true in other minds. So if I am thinking with my holy mind, if I'm thinking from the perspective of the Holy Spirit, then only the truth will extend from my mind. And it will extend to the truth in other minds because everyone has that same truth in their minds. Everyone has the truth because we are as God created us and nothing else. And we cannot change creation. So we have the truth in our minds. Our brothers have the truth in their minds. And we can connect with that truth. My truth connects with their truth. So thank you so much for joining me in this little talk. I'll be talking about chapter 6 when I get to it. Right now, I'm just in chapter 2, but I just couldn't wait to share this with you. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please like it. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. I'll see you soon.